Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
It's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think. Jamil and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Greetings, cretins.
Good to be back in the studio for another fine episode of Brew Strong.
Yes, it is. Beautiful day today.
In downtown Martinez.
Yeah. Clear skies, beers in front of us.
Refinery chugging away. Has the refinery started back up, or is it still down?
Seems like it was steaming this morning.
I think so, yeah. Why was it down?
Well, didn't they have like some fire or some explosion?
That happens every month.
Yeah. Well, and then
part of the process.
I think they go to investigate it, and there's this like bypass. They put like a T in before some sort of restrictor thing and fed it over to some other process. And they're like, we're just balancing off, emergency pressure. They go, no, you're bypassing, the controls. No, that's not what it's for.
No, we had an intern design it for us this summer.
Please. Makes me think of building a brewery, You get a lot of that same thing. But
Yeah.
No, we're not trying to bypass any regulations. We're just it's balancing the pressure, that's all. Yeah. Balance this side is 0 and this side is there you go. We're just using a little 0 to balance out the pressure from the
well, one area where they don't bypass anything in engineering.
Oh, what, the break room? The snacks?
Our good friend John Blickman.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Oh, yeah. Wow. Nice segue there.
Thank you.
Yeah, no bypassing there. Blickman Engineering, they're making quality products, taking no shortcuts. I don't think Blickman knows what a shortcut is.
No, it probably doesn't.
Probably doesn't.
It took him 2 hours to get here last time.
Right. Yeah, just following by the book. No, they're making great products and a lot of, as JP likes to say, innovative products. Yeah. Innovating your homebrew.
And your professional brew, too.
Yeah, they're doing nano brew equipment as well. They've got the
new two-barrel
right. Nano brew stuff. So that's a pretty good size. I think if you're selling all of that, you're brewing 2 barrels and you got enough room for enough fermenters, and you're selling it all across a tasting room counter.
Yeah.
You could do well with that. That I think you could make work. A lot of you wouldn't be like me with your minions, doing all the work while I sit back in the throne, and flying the private jet and things like that.
Right.
But you'd be able to make that work.
I've been telling my wife for years that even 1 barrel is enough for.
What, for committing suicide or what?
No, in terms of just size of the brewery.
Okay, size.
Yeah.
So you think 1 barrel is enough?
Yeah,
You're
in a lot of cases,
it's how you use it. It's not the size of the brewery. It's
frequency.
How you use it.
Yeah,
it's frequency. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, if you are curious as to the fine sponsors and paying for the show for many years, so you don't have to, go check them out. BlickmanEngineering.com. Blickman with 2 N's. So check that out. And so what are we doing today? You've got you got a show idea here. You had this whole thing.
Yeah, we had a nice email from one of our avid listeners, and
our rabid listeners.
Yeah. He asked if we could cover sources of contamination in the brewery. And so do a show on infections.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, infections are a subject that's on your mind a lot.
Right.
And
right.
So I thought we could pull a nice show together with that.
Yeah, little moxicillin. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm used to lots of infections. Yes.
Nothing a little iodine won't take care of.
Yeah, I think that's a great subject for a show. I think we talk about it quite a bit in terms of everything else, and identifying problems in the brew house. But I don't know that we've done a show that outlines exactly where you'd find those things and what the causes of different characters in your beer might be. So that's a great show idea. And if you have ideas that you want to see us cover on the show, you can send those to Brew Strong at thebrewingnetwork.com, or you can send it to John at thebrewingnetwork.com or Jamil at thebrewingnetwork.com, and we'll get those. And we can't respond to all of those show requests, but they
will be considered.
Yeah, they get saved, and then when we're scrambling, desperate to find an idea for the show, we take back through there and go, oh yeah, that doesn't sound too bad.
As a reminder, JP at thebrewingnetwork.com is not John Palmer.
Correct.
That's right.
Just so everybody remembers that.
And it's not John Plisse.
No, and John Plisse at the Brewing Network doesn't exist. So don't email JP
and
thinking
it's
that
not
you're
John
John
Plickman either.
Yeah, JP is me. John is Palmer.
Palmer, yeah.
Yes.
Although I don't think it is Palmer at. Although, what? John at? Or
I don't know. Maybe it is Palmer at.
I didn't know you had one.
Maybe you don't.
John at howtobrew.com.
Yeah,
John at howtobrew.com. There you go. All right.
That'll get me.
Yeah. Well, get you one way or another. All right. So let's do this. Let's before we dive into this
cauldron of
infectious topic, let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get all into all the different caucuses and bacilluses and myces and bactors.
Sounds good.
All right. Back after this.
When you hear Blickman Engineering, think innovation, passion, quality, and customer service. Blickman gear is designed by brewers to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon, keep up with the latest from Blickman at blickmanengineering.com and stay on the cutting edge. Where can you still find $7.95 nationwide shipping, a friendly, knowledgeable staff, and all of the stuff to brew for less? Homebrew Stuff.
Isn't the Homebrew Stuff a sexual maneuver?
Homebrew Stuff is the largest homebrew supplier in the Northwest and can be found in Garden City, Idaho, and online at homebrewstuff.com. Equipment and ingredients for brewing beer and wine, soda and liquors, books, instructional DVDs, beginner kits, and a great selection of grain and hops. Homebrew Stuff also has dozens of free videos online to help make brewing easier. Visit homebrewstuff.com now for the best prices with their match or beat guarantee. BN Army members can take 10% off their first order with the coupon code BNARMY. Kegs, regulators, faucets, towers, carboys, conicals, barrels, you name it. Get your homebrew stuff for less at homebrewstuff.com. Homebrew Stuff. Not a sexual maneuver. Just the best prices and great service on all the stuff you need. homebrewstuff.com.
Hey, my brewing brothers and sisters, this is Jamil Zanishev, and I love a bold, hoppy beer, one that spits resin in your face and makes you cry, Uncle. There are a lot of great hoppy beers out there, but at Heretic, we want to make something as bold, dank, and resiny as possible. We use hops at every chance we get, including multiple dry hop additions. The result is Heretic Evil Cousin. This light golden, 8% Imperial IPA has an easy malt character that helps take the edge off the massive bittering, but it takes a back seat to the in-your-face hop character. We make sure this beer finishes dry so the hops can jump out and slam you in the taste buds. If you can't get enough hoppy goodness, Evil Cousin is your cup of tea. Cheers.
What'd you get? More brewing ingredients?
Yep. You know what I love about Brewmaster's Warehouse?
The $6.99 shipping?
Well, yeah, but...
Oh, the in-store classes for beginning brewers.
Yeah, that's cool, but...
Oh, the Brew Builder. Creating and saving your recipes online is awesome!
No, yes, but...
The cheese-making supplies.
No.
Oh, the wine-making supplies. Oh, the distilling equipment and liquor flavorings.
All that stuff is awesome, yes, but what I really love is that the guy who runs it is totally hot. And that Brew Builder software is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Brewmaster's Warehouse brings you flat rate shipping on great equipment and ingredients to make beer, wine, cheese, and spirits at brewmasterswarehouse.com. And if you're in Georgia, stop by Brewmaster's Warehouse Monday through Saturday from 10 to 6. Visit brewmasterswarehouse.com today because it's totally hot.
Oh, yeah.
Since the first time the Brewing Network microphones turned on, More Beer was behind it. More Beer sponsors the programming on the BN because, like you, they love brewing. And like the Brewing Network, they love sharing their knowledge. Morebeer.com isn't just a website to place your next equipment or ingredient order. Morebeer.com also gives you access to free beer information that will make you a better brewer. Go to morebeer.com and click into the Learning Center. You'll find podcasts, technical facts, video tutorials, and more, including access to The Buzz, More Beer's social network of more than 5,000 members. And some of them might even be crazier about beer than you are. Get over to morebeer.com today and take advantage of The Buzz, the forum, the Learning Center, and make sure you're signed up to receive the newest More Beer catalog. More Beer, bringing you absolutely everything for beer making.
Back to the two guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. We're talking about identifying your infection. Now, John, when we're talking about infections or contamination, we're not talking about some oozing pustule on your person.
Right.
We're talking about, this is about beer, and when we're, like we always do, let's define what we're talking about. What's contaminate? I guess contamination could be, you've dropped a
baby rattle.
Or baby rattle, or the baby into your beer.
Yeah.
So while it's not technically correct, I guess, an infection implies something different. Contamination could be some pesticide residue.
Right.
That, you sprayed your hops and then you use your homeroom hops and then you got pesticide residue in your beer, and that's a contaminated beer.
That's true, yes.
Okay. And contamination could also be some sort of unwanted organism growing in there. But we try and it's not technically an infection. You call it an infection because it is some unwanted organism.
Right. Yeah, I think, as people... as well as brewers, we tend to think of, we talk about infected beer, but according to the BJCP and according to other brewing scientists, really we should be a little more rigorous in our definitions. An infection is a microorganism that gets into a living thing, such as a person or a plant or an animal.
I like to think of my beer as a living thing.
Yeah.
It's born, and
But it's the yeast that are the living thing, and the infection or the contaminant or it doesn't actually get into the yeast. It gets into the beer, which is a byproduct of the living thing, as it were. So properly when we talk about these off flavors, we're talking about contaminants. Now, these are all microorganism contaminants. They can be other yeast strains, and they can be bacteria. They can also be molds, which are other types of fungus, I believe.
So we're talking about some kind of microbial contamination. Then.
Correct. That's correct.
Is more technically what we're looking for now. Okay, so how do you isolate that out for me? What types of microbial?
Well, you have your wild yeasts, which can be like gusher infections is a common one where your beer just seems to not stop fermenting. It's been a week and you're still getting a bubble a minute kind of thing going on the fermenter.
It's like when your penis won't stop dripping.
Yeah, it could be like that.
Very similar.
Yeah, especially when you get older. Yeah,
or you become infected.
Oh yeah, that's true. I've never experienced that myself. So. Anyway, you get these run-on infections, if you will, or fermentations where the beer ferments entirely out. I mean, you drink this beer, you bottle it, and when you drink it, you realize that you're not getting a lot of flavor. You pour the beer, you get vigorous carbonation, but very large bubbles. It looks like you're pouring soda pop, and that's because some of these wild yeasts, they're like called Saccharomyces diastaticus. They are capable of eating dextrins. Something that Saccharomyces cerevisiae doesn't eat. Our normal beer yeast and baking yeast stops at your maltotriose, your 3-sugar fermentable sugar, and whereas the diastaticus has the enzymes to break down more complex dextrins, and it will ferment that beer out completely until all you're left with is carbonated water. So that's a common infection. I've had it occur both in fermentations and in bottling. And then another very common wild yeast is Brettanomyces, which is not a Saccharomyces type.
Right.
It's a different strain.
Well, in the yeast book, I think we define wild yeast as something technically that you didn't intend to be in your batch of beer.
That's a good.
So a lot of times people say, well, it's got bread, and speaking with Chris White about this, he was saying, well, technically, if you get, let's say you're using WLP001 Cal Ale yeast in your beer, that's your yeast strain, and you inadvertently get a few cells of 05 in there, or 07, dry English in there, then that's a wild yeast. That's a contaminant that you didn't intend to be in there, and it's wild because it's not the yeast that you pitched.
I see. Yep, makes sense.
And it could have, again, inadvertent consequences. It may end up, attenuating more than you had intended,
right,
etc.
Yeah, so especially if it was a lager strain, something like that.
Yeah, lager strain, and you end up with some Belgian yeast strain or something like that, and you get some, some phenols or such in there. Yeah. So, an interesting, definition of what's wild yeast.
Yeah.
And then, I guess, if you're doing, intentionally soured beer or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And you want certain bacteria in there. The bacteria that you want, those are not necessarily a contaminant. But if you get other bacteria in there that you didn't want, let's say you want lactobacillus because you're making a Berliner Weiss.
Right.
And you end up with a bunch of pediococcus in there as well.
Right.
From the grain dust or whatever.
Right.
The pediococcus would be
the
a
wrong
contaminant.
Flavor, yeah.
Right.
It'd be the wrong flavor for the style.
Interesting. Okay. So you're saying there's a kind of a variety of wild yeasts. Now what about what's the other thing there that?
Well, you'd have your bacterial strains.
The bacterias,
yeah.
And what's the range of bacterias like?
Well, there's there's probably a dozen well-known bacterial contaminants.
And there's probably
hundreds
of
below
thousands of bacterias.
Oh yeah, yeah,
and not all of them will live in beer, though.
That's correct. And some of them, I mean, it's like with yeast strains where you have a species such as Saccharomyces cerevisiae, where you've got hundreds of strains below that within that species, and it's the same in bacteria. Maybe not to quite that extent, but you'll have a species such as Pediococcus, and then there'll be like a dozen or 20 different subspecies within that that have different properties, different off flavors that they can cause. There's one class of bacteria called enterobacters, and typically these are bacteria that live in our gut. They help digest carbohydrates and other things. And yet, if you get them in your beer, then you will tend to have high diacetyl, or in some case, they produce one species will produce a lot of esters. And they talk about one of them, the obesium bacterium, a strain of Enterobacter, causes a parsnip flavor. And for those of you that don't know what parsnips taste like or smell like, I kind of compare it to a cross between a carrot and a radish. So but the point is that there's a wide variety of possible contaminants. But there's only a handful, half a dozen that are quite common, and that can tolerate the conditions in beer, especially in fermented beer, where you have
beer spoilage organisms is what they call them. Yeah.
Yes, where they can tolerate the alcohol, they can tolerate the low pH and the temperature as well.
And there's some that can live in there, but won't really necessarily spoil the beer as well.
Right.
And then, a common saying is that, there's no bacteria or yeast that can live in beer that can harm you.
Correct,
at worst might give you an upset tummy or the runs or something, right? But if you drank enough.
Yeah.
But nothing that would hurt you.
That's right.
That's true.
Pathogenic bacteria or infectious bacteria like that, such as it would cause common cold or the flu, or flu is virus, but you know what I mean. Infectious bacteria that we associate with disease in humans or pets. Those are typically gram-positive strains that are not able to tolerate conditions in beer.
So if Justin was to take his diseased weenie and
use
swizzle stick your beer,
his wort, during the boil, take care of it,
and then you could drink that and you wouldn't catch the myriad of diseases that he has.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So viruses can't live in there, and
that's
crabs.
Well, you can get spores. You can get bacterial spores that will survive.
Right. They'll survive the boil. They spore you late.
Yeah. But the conditions in beer are not such that they transform into, junior bacterial or infectious forms.
Okay. And I've heard that there are molds and that can grow in beer, and again, not harmful. Or how common is it to have a mold contamination of a beer?
That's a real good question. I can't really speak with any real authority on it. I was reading. There's a good book for all you brewers that are real interested
called Yeast.
That is a very good book for investigating bacteria and in your fermentations. The one by Chris White and Jamil called Yeast. There's another good book for you really geeky beer people that are interested in contaminations called Brewing Microbiology, second edition by Priest and Campbell. And it's not a large book. It's about a half-inch thick, but it gets into lots of nitty-gritty details as far as identifying different strains of bacteria and wild yeast and how to identify them in the lab. And so that's one source. And while I'm talking about sources, I want to give a shout out to the latest issue of Zymurgy, where in the For Geeks Only column, Chris Bible, a friend of ours, wrote a real good article called Beer Spoilage Organisms, which is very serendipitous. The show idea came in a couple weeks before this article appeared in my mailbox. So
cool. Yeah, the AHA puts out a great magazine called Zymurgy. They also do the homebrew competition, the national homebrew competition, the national conference. I mean, it's just fantastic, all that they do. And I think the hidden things that they do is, kind of advocating for homebrewers and, kind of keeping an eye on regulations and things like that. And it really has been fantastic. That's one of the reasons I'm a lifetime member of the AHA. Yeah. I'd highly recommend anybody listening, if you're not an AHA member, you should go to the Brewing Network site, thebrewingnetwork.com. And look for the AHA logo there. You can sign up for the AHA through there, and a little bit of that goes back to the Brewing Network, helps support the shows, and really, I think you're getting a great magazine. They've got a pub discount program. Heretic's going to participate in that once we get our new facility open. We're going to give a serious discount to all our AHA brothers and sisters, and
sweet.
They do just a lot of good work, so it's well worth supporting, not just for the magazine, but the magazine is quite good. All right. Let's do this. Let's take another short break, and when we come back, we'll kind of dive into some of those off flavors that you might find that can help identify where these things are coming from and how to figure out how to solve the problem. All right.
Sounds good.
We'll do that after this.
BN Army, HopTech has a great discount waiting for you. Do you often find it difficult to find specific specialty ingredients for your homebrew recipes? Well, listen to this. HopTech stocks 59 different grains to choose from, 39 varieties of pellet hops, and 8 kinds of whole leaf hops. And HopTech not only carries Y yeast and White Labs yeast for you, but also Fermentus, 04, 5, 6, 23, 33, and T58 Belgian yeast, plus Cooper's, Nottingham, and Windsor yeasts. Got your recipe ready to go? Pick up some great brew gear like new long and short sleeved shirts, games, and more. HopTech's new website is being updated every day with new items. If you don't see it, call the shop. They're open 6 days a week. BN Army and AHA members get a 10% discount, and active military personnel get 15% off. Visit HopTech.com today for great selection, great service, and a great discount. HopTech.com.
Tonight is the night.
We bring the creature to life, Dr. Blickmanstein?
Yes, J.P. Gore. Everything is perfect for my next fermented creation.
My doctor, the storm is too far away. We'll never have enough power to isomerize the creature's alpha acids.
Yes, J.P. Gore, we will. For I have in my possession the Tower of Power.
Blickman's new Tower of Power is the evolution of automation. Control hot liquor, sparge, and mash temps like a pro. The Tower of Power is a high-quality gas-fired rim system that works with your current brewing setup. With ultra-precision, the tower can hold your mash to 1/2 of a degree Fahrenheit. Precision and repeatability. The Tower of Power is the answer to automatic, fast ramp times. See more at BlickmanEngineering.com. Bring your next creation to life with the Tower of Power.
Dr. Blickmanstein, with the Tower of Power, you can probably give me an afternoon at the pub to enjoy a pint.
Don't be silly, J.P. Gore. We have beer to brew.
When I order a beer, I want my server to know more about it than I do. I want someone who enjoys good beer and loves helping others enjoy it too. I want someone who knows how to pour a perfect pint for any beer style. I want a Cicerone. The Cicerone certification program is creating the type of people who help you enjoy great beer. Home brewers and craft beer lovers know beer is more flavorful and complex than ever, and it takes some serious knowledge to store and serve beer right. Cicerones know beer. There are 3 levels in the Cicerone program: Certified Beer Server, Certified Cicerone, and Master Cicerone. Cicerones are truly the sommeliers of beer. The best beer locations have a certified Cicerone on staff. Relaxed and unpretentious. Cicerones are tested on storing and serving beer, beer styles, flavor and tasting, the brewing process and ingredients, and pairing food with beer. Learn more about your next beer guide at cicerone.org. Certified Cicerone, because it takes top talent to present a perfect pint.
All right, BN Army, it's trivia time. What's the only homebrew shop with over 1,000 recipe kits, $4.99 shipping on orders over $100, and is also home of the Wolf shirt? The one and only answer is Austin Homebrew Supply. For over 20 years, they've specialized in creating recipes such as the best-selling Texas Blonde Ale, Apocalypso, Hot Bomb 2.0, and Double Chocolate Stout. And they just recently unveiled their small grain kits that produce 1 gallon of beer. Visit austinhomebrew.com to browse their extensive catalog of equipment and ingredients. They also have mini clone recipes of your favorite commercial beers. They're the exclusive retailer of Brew Vent Yeast Fuel as well, Yeast Nutrient, and the all-new Bodybuilder. Follow Austin Homebrew Supply on Google Plus to participate in video hangouts on popular brewing topics. So visit austinhomebrew.com today and make sure you sign up for their weekly email with news and specials. Austin Homebrew Supply, austinhomebrew.com.
A vial of White Labs yeast is the key to your best beer. When you open a vial of White Labs yeast, you're giving your beer its best chance for a perfect fermentation. In addition to their already incredible variety of yeasts, White Labs is proud to announce WLP 90, San Diego's super yeast, now available year-round. WLP 90 is super clean, super fast fermenting, with low esters and has a neutral flavor and aroma profile. It's alcohol tolerant and highly flocculent. For more of the latest White Labs news, click over to whitelabs.com, where you can read reviews of yeast, learn in the lab section, and join the customer club. And if you should find yourself in San Diego, White Labs has a brand new training facility for craft brewers and home brewers alike. Whitelabs.com. Discover yeast, nutrients, enzymes, and more for commercial breweries, home brewers, and homebrew stores. White Labs. It's all in the vial.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. We're talking all the things that make you go drip in the night. Infections, contamination,
random bubbling,
and random bubbling, bubble and squeak. The thing that I wanted to mention that occurred to me during the break was that when we're talking about beer being safe and not harboring any
pathogenic bacteria,
that's really dependent on proper fermentation in the first place, because it's the lower pH of the beer, it being an acidic food. The alcohol present, things like that actually make that safe to drink. If you were to pitch all dead yeast into something, or you pitch your yeast too hot or something, and then you got like botulism in there somehow, your mash wasn't so great. You got a higher pH wort.
Right.
It could be possible for something to grow in there and become quite deadly. So it really depends on beer being fermented,
properly fermented, right?
Yeah, and the pH dropping down and all that. And then in that case, it's safe to drink, but just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. So if your beer didn't ferment, don't try drinking it and assuming it's safe because it was boiled at one point. You could easily get something in there that could...
Right. Or if you leave wort out,
Yeah.
You need to be careful of, that as well. Well, and we had been talking about molds and such, and I know one of the things in the yeast book, there's a toxin that can be found on barley that impacts fermentation negatively. So that's one type of contamination. Other molds that you're aware of? The unusual molds.
I believe it's the Aspergillus or Fusarium mold that can be on barley, and if I read that right, it's a combination of the toxins that the molds give off, and the spores that the molds get off, that they make their way into the beer and can cause gushing in the beer. And this is more prevalent in northern or very cooler, wetter climates. The book, the microbiology book, talked about this being a problem for a Danish brewery in particular, where they have a climate that is cool and very damp that promotes the growth of mold, and the barley storage can picked up some additional mold, and then that makes its way into the beer and they had gushing problems.
Well, and there'll be on your grains there'll be bacteria, there'll be yeasts, there'll be molds, there can be molds, and I know that in tropical climates, tropical breweries, that's one of the big problems that they sometimes will struggle with is, it's a humid environment, and the malt gets slack, and they'll have the growth of molds, and they can have the growth of bacteria and things like that as well. Keep your, like they say, keep your powder dry, keep your malt dry. Right. Definitely a big step in controlling things like molds. I'd bought some mold. I had bought some barley, some malt. That was the word I wanted. Malt. Knew it began with an M. 4 letters, had an L on it. I was going to brew one weekend, and something came up, so I just left the malt in the paper bag and stuck it in my fridge. And when I got around to it a couple weeks later and opened up the bag, well, here's all this moldy barley in there. It was just a little too damp in the refrigerator, even though it was cool. A little too damp, and I had moldy malt. So you want to always store your malt dry in plastic or a moisture barrier kind of material. Yeah, when I was brewing a lot, homebrewing, I would store my base malt in trash cans, in large Rubbermaid trash cans, and then I'd put it in a really heavy. They have those really heavy plastic bags for construction and yard waste, and the real heavy mill. And I'd use one of those, and I'd push the air out and tie a knot in that. They also have those like pet food saver bins. They're really expensive, but it has a gasketed screw-on lid. Those are nice. Yep. But again, real expensive. A Rubbermaid trash can with one of these heavy-duty trash bags worked really well for me. I never had any problems. Of course, it didn't. Most of the time, it didn't get too humid where I was at. I think if you keep opening it in a real humid environment, you might run into an issue. But if I would keep malt for a year, no problem at all, or even a couple of years, and no problem at all.
Yeah, me too.
That was good. And then for my specialty grains, I was using just a 1-gallon plastic jar with it kind of had a seal for the lid, so that was if you squeeze it and no air is going in and out, that generally, that's not proof that moisture isn't going to get in there, but it generally holds down the air exchange and can keep it pretty good. Yeah, you always taste your malt before you brew, and slack malt will be kind of soft, and fresh malt will be nice and crunchy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what other things do people need to know about infections? So we've talked about the types of things that can infect. How do you identify what the infection is? How do you know what it is, where it came from? As far as solving it, I guess, it's sanitation, kill things with heat and chemicals, and cleaning.
Yeah. So, well, there's some.
We had a show on that too. We had John Herskovitz, didn't we? And
yes, that's right. How to keep things clean and sanitized. Right. Yeah. Well, when it comes to like identifying, the infection or contamination you have, there's a couple key characteristics that you can look at. One is that a lot of contaminants will throw off quite a bit of diacetyl. So, if you're smelling your fermentation, while it's fermenting, or if you taste the beer immediately before bottling or kegging, and you get a real strong diacetyl note, that's one indication that you'll probably have a contamination. You can get diacetyl, of course, from other sources. Your other brewing, process sources. You didn't boil long enough, et cetera, but a lot of these contaminants do throw off quite a bit of diacetyl. Mm-hmm. You have bacteria that throw off quite a bit of hydrogen sulfide, so you can get some rotten egg smells and and some rotten flavors. One bacteria has a kind of a characteristic rotten apple aroma because of a combination of acetaldehyde and hydrogen sulfide type products being produced. And I forget which one that is. I think it's the Zymomonas. So anyway, I'm getting kind of jumping around.
So you generally you'll notice something. It's an off flavor, off aroma,
and it may be appearance too.
Maybe a slime or something forming on the surface.
Right. You can see. You can get pellicles forming. These are.
And what's a pellicle?
A pellicle is a gelatinous protein, or actually polysaccharide, I believe is the proper term, composition mass that the bacteria produce.
Well, in yeast as well. Brettanomyces is pellicle forming.
That's right. So I was thinking, not our normal
your
brewing yeast,
usual
but your
sack yeast one.
But your Brettanomyces will throw off a pellicle. Your Acetobacters, your Lactobacillus will also. The pellicle have different appearances depending on which agent is responsible. The Brettanomyces pellicle is usually whitish, and it's opaque, floating on top.
And it can get quite thick. I've had them, good 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch thick.
Yeah, whereas it resists punching a spoon through it.
And what it's really doing is protecting the beer from more oxygen.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. I guess Brettanomyces is one. It's a wild yeast, and it can ferment both aerobically and anaerobically, or I shouldn't say ferment, but it can live aerobically and anaerobically. If it's aerobic, that's when it tends to produce more acid.
Yeah, you'll get acetic. You can get with enough oxygen, it'll produce acetic acid or vinegar, which is not appropriate. Even in your sour beers.
Yeah.
In a subset of sour beers, a very tiny amount of acetic is okay, but otherwise not appropriate.
The otherwise in a Brett, if some Brettanomyces gets into say a non-Brett beer, like your pale ale, for instance, you could expect to get some phenolic notes. To get a little bit of the musty, earthy, leathery, barnyard kind of character developing. But generally, those classic Brett barnyard kind of aromas don't arrive until later in the fermentation.
Well, it depends a lot on the strain.
Lots of different strains of Brett.
As brewers, we think, there's 3 or 4 kinds of Brett. No, there's thousands of them, just like there are sack yeasts.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And they'll have a wide variety of characters, just like the sack yeasts do as well.
Good point.
Now, what about ropey beer? A beer which people call the beer's getting sick. It's got these ropey, slimy, snotty things.
Pellicles, yeah. Well, that's usually.
Well, is that really a pellicle? Because it's not on the surface. It's just a clump of snot. Hanging down in the beer.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's not a pellicle per se, which is something that floats on top of. It's a protective kind of cap on the beer. Your Acetobacters or acetic acid bacteria, they can form a thin, translucent pellicle that is different appearance from the Brett pellicle. They will also form the ropey strands in beer. But your Pediococcus and Lactobacillus bacteria will also form the ropiness, the polysaccharide, gelatin strands in beer.
But when you're pouring it, it's like there's a big snot, phlegmy thing, or like gelatin that's generally pretty clear.
Yeah.
I guess it can take on different appearances, but you'll be pouring your beer and it'll come out in a big chunk out of the bottle.
Yeah, that's a good indicator of a pedio or lacto or Cetobacter infection. And when you have that kind of contamination, you can usually identify them pretty well from the characteristic off flavors. Lactobacillus, of course, is a sour, acidic character, but not as sharp as a vinegar, acetic type acid would be.
Acetobacter, that's why it's not appropriate in beer. It's so harsh and biting, just pour vinegar in your beer, and you could say it's kind of sourish, but it's really more biting.
That's kind of a fault on a lot of Flanders red beers that you taste in competition, where it's sour and it's red, but it really has too much acetic to make it, ultimately a very pleasant beer.
Right. Lactic, malic,
Yeah,
that's more the way to go.
Better. The Pediococcus doesn't throw quite as much. It throws acid. It has a little different aroma to it. Your Pediococcus tends to produce the most diacetyl of your bacterial infections, but then you'll get some lacto or different acid character. I believe the type of acid that the bacterium produces is acetic as well.
Well, now there's a wide range of bacteria, a wide range of off flavors, a wide range of aromas and appearances. Is there a source where people can go? Does the book you mentioned, does that have a chart of all these? I know in the yeast book we tried to include some of the more common stuff in there, but where's a good source of finding these? Because we can't go through every single one and cover those, but where's a good?
I think the best source at the moment for comparison is probably the current Zymergy article by Chris Bible. He has a couple of nice tables in there that identifies kind of like a key characteristic and what its effect is on the beer.
What issue is that?
That is the November-December 2012 issue.
Okay.
Volume 35, number 6 of Zymergy.
There you go.
And the 4 geeks only column.
What's also great about that is they've started doing putting the back issues online for members. You can actually access some of the back issues, and that would be good if you're not signed up now. You sign up and maybe could get that. Matter of fact, if you signed up right now, you probably still get that issue sent to you.
That's true. Yeah.
If they haven't run out yet.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So I think the other thing is that a lot of people tend to wonder about is kind of the lab aspect of this. How do you is there something you look for? What's the process of determining once and for all what's
where's this coming from? How to get rid of it? Yeah. Well, especially I think if you're a professional brewer, or even if you're a homebrewer, you want to figure out where this is coming from, what you can do to prevent it. If you have a microscope and are familiar with yeast counting, yeast culturing, and staining processes, as discussed in the yeast book by Jamil and Chris, if you have that kind of equipment, there's a lot you can do to identify your infection by taking a sample of the beer, growing it up on an agar plate, and then looking under the microscope. Bacteriums are generally about 10 times smaller than a yeast cell. So if you put a streak of this mixed culture on a slide and look under the microscope, you can see the round yeast cells, and then you can see smaller round cells. Those are the bacterium. Those are the coccuses. The coccuses translates through Latin or Greek or whatever to round or spherical.
You'd think it would be the other way. It would be more like a rod.
Yeah,
the coccus would be more like a rod.
Yeah.
And the bolus would be more like a sphere.
Yeah, isn't it ironic?
I'm just saying, yeah.
Yeah, and your silices are the rods. So, for instance, your pediococcus, that's a round bacterium. Your lactobacillus, that's a rod bacteria. And if you look in How to Brew, I think it's in the yeast chapter, I have a picture in there of yeast cells and bacteria. And it says right in the caption, I spit onto a plate with some and cultured it up in some wort.
You didn't take like skid mark from your underwear. And,
no. Just simply spit into a fermenting beer sample.
So you're saying your mouth is full of
lactobacillus,
nasty bacteria.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying? You can brush your teeth every once in a while. Maybe that wouldn't be the case. There you go.
Hey,
whip out a toothbrush.
Yeah, you use a toothbrush to inoculate your Berliner Weiss or something.
There you go. When you're doing your normal cell counts and checking for viability, don't just be looking for yeast cells. Keep an eye out, and if you see these rods and spheres, there as well, then indication of it. Then you can crank up your magnification, go oil immersion, and look around for the bacteria as well.
Yeah. Now, in addition to bacterial shape, then you have what they call the gram-positive and gram-negative staining differentiation. And some bacteria have their cell membrane on the outside, and those are referred to as gram-negative because that more outer membrane is more resistant to staining. Your gram-positive bacteria, which tend to be your beer spoilers and pathogenic bacteria, have their membrane more internal. They have other layers on the outside, and they tend to pick up more stain. The gram stain is like a deep purple, blue-violet kind of thing. So your gram-positive will stain a deep purple. Your gram-negative will stain a light pink. And that can help you kind of differentiate which type of bacteria you're dealing with. Say, if you see a spherical that's gram-positive, well, that was probably pediococcus, whereas a spherical or a rod bacterium, such as lactobacillus, that's gram-positive, whereas acetobacter is a rod-shaped and gram-negative. So by looking at these under the microscope, you can help yourself identify exactly what contaminants you're dealing with. And again, the microbiology book, the yeast book, Zymer Jericho, as well as Wikipedia online, has descriptions of how to identify these various contaminants.
Well, it's a lot of good information, I think, on how to identify those things. I'll tell you one other thing. A lot of good information is the Brewing Network's got the Brewing the Perfect American Pale Ale DVD. It's in pre-sale right now, $17.95, and the Brewing Network is their Homebrew U series. And what they did was Justin
brewed this?
He somehow got Matt Brentelson from Firestone Walker to come down. And
he leveraged some sort of weirdness.
He really had some dirty pictures he had him. And, we're drinking Firestone Pale 31 right now. Excellent pale ale.
Yeah.
And, so he got him to come down and talk about, the what, the why, the how, the when
I bet that's a really good show.
Fantastic pale ale. Yeah. Well, and you can pre-order it now. It's going to be $19.95, but right now you can get it for $17.95. You pre-order it, and
just in time for Christmas.
Yeah, it'll arrive in January, but you can order it. You can order it in Christmas and print out a little thing for your loved one saying, "Hey, this is coming in January," and you can brew then, dear. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, check it out. All right, let's take our last short break, and when we come back, we'll answer any questions and kind of wrap this topic up. Back after this.
Williams Brewing is your online resource for prompt delivery of quality home brewing supplies. Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients and the best customer service in the business. Cut hours off your brewing sessions by using one of our 11 varieties of famous Williams malt extract. Our Williams Belgian Pale Extract is mashed with pure Belgian two-row malt and a small percentage of Belgian wheat malt for an authentic Belgian character you just can't get from other extracts. Or check out our unique fermenters, 2.5-gallon kegs, paintball tank-based draft beer equipment, bottling aids, and much more. We even have our own line of precision hydrometers. Go to williamsbrewing.com to browse our vast selection. That's williamsbrewing.com. Orders placed by 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time ship the same day. Brewing is easy. The Williams way.
Hi, I'm Jason Harris, the proud owner here at Keystone Homebrew Supply. We're thrilled to be entering our 20th year of supplying this great industry, and to show you, the Brewing Network Army, how much we appreciate your support, we're offering you 10% off your first order on our website, KeystoneHomebrew.com. Just use coupon code BNARMY at checkout, and I'll get your order out the same day. My goal at Keystone Homebrew Supply has always been to have a complete supply of everything a brewer could want. When you place your order online or when you come into our store, it's our goal to have everything on your list and more. One aspect of KeystoneHomebrew.com that we're really excited about is the ability to fulfill customers' exact grain bills. Do you hate to wait? Keystone Homebrew Supply can get your precious yeast and hops to you within just one day if you live between Connecticut and Virginia, and within 2 days east of the Mississippi. KeystoneHomebrew.com. Coupon code BNARMY. I'm Jason Harris, and I approve this message.
Hi, I'm Jamil Zanishev, and in addition to my work on the Brewing Network, I write the Style Profile column in every issue of Brew Your Own magazine.
Hi, I'm Sean Paxton, and when I'm not prepping for the Homebrewed Chef on the Brewing Network, you can find me writing articles on how to cook with your homebrew for Brew Your Own magazine.
Greetings, cretins. This is John Palmer, and when I'm not writing for Brew Your Own, I'm reading it.
John Palmer, Sean Paxton, Jamil Zanishev. If you love listening to them on the Brewing Network, you'll love reading their articles, tips, and recipes in the pages of Brew Your Own magazine. Join Jamil, John, and Sean 8 times a year in Brew Your Own. And when you subscribe to BYO on the Brewing Network website, half of your subscription price goes right back to the BN to support great beer and food programming. So sign up for Brew Your Own magazine through the BN website today so you can listen and read your way to better homebrew. When Michael Fairbrother started moonlighting, he had no idea how quickly his dream was going to grow. Having homebrewed for 15 years, Michael decided to go pro, but not with beer. While attending his homebrew club meetings, he saw ladies knocking their men out of the way to try his mead. Moonlight Meadery is now 2 years old and can produce 200,000 bottles a year. It's the first New Hampshire winery to ever distribute to California and Australia. In fact, you can find Moonlight Meadery meads in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, Rhode Island, Vermont, and New Hampshire, and they ship direct to 17 states. They produce 56 different varieties of mead and are unlike anything you've ever seen on the market. Michael Fairbrother at Moonlight Meadery is a real success story that can make the BN Army proud. Visit Moonlight Meadery in Londonderry, New Hampshire, or online at moonlightmeadery.com. What does craft beer mean to you? Is it a delicious way to support your town's local brewer? Or perhaps it's the perfect beverage to pair with those delicious meals at your favorite restaurant and at home. Regardless of whether you're thinking of pints or pairings, pilsners or porters, craftbeer.com is the site where craft beer lovers come together to learn and share. Craftbeer.com is brought to you by the Brewers Association and celebrates the best of American craft beer and its brewers. Craftbeer.com is the best place to find craft beer events, recipes, great feature stories, the most up-to-date brewery listings, and resources for your next beer tasting or dinner, like style guidelines, pairing mats, and charts. Get the inside scoop on new beer releases and special events from today's craft beer insiders, and chime in to share your own knowledge, perfect pairings, road trips, recipes, and more. Craftbeer.com, celebrating the best of American beer.
Are you a hophead? Beer lovers of all stripes will love Brewers Publications' latest release, IPA, Brewing Techniques, Recipes, and the Evolution of India Pale Ale by Mitch Steele.
I wanted to write a book that presented an accurate review of the history of IPA and also provided current technical brewing tips and recipe information. India Pale Ale is a style I love because it has a rich, fascinating history, and today it provides brewers a showcase for all the great new hop varieties that are available. I'm so proud of this book, and I know you'll enjoy all the recipes and thoughts from so many of the world's great IPA brewers.
IPA is available now from Brewers Publications at brewerspublications.com and your favorite homebrew store. Order your copy today and take your hop-forward beers to the next level.
American Homebrewers Association and Brewers Association members receive early notice and special discounts to most Brewers Publication releases. Visit brewerspublications.com to learn more and to find a schedule of author appearances. IPA by Mitch Steele. Get yours today.
Back to your hosts, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. Putting the testicles in technical. This is Brew Strong.
All right, speaking of testicles, don't forget our other sponsor, Adam and Eve, adamandeve.com. They've got a great deal for you if you go to adamandeve.com. You use the offer code Jamil, Jamil. You're going to get to choose 3 free adult DVDs. And when I say choose, I mean you get to choose from great categories such as anal, amateur, Asian, big butts, big breasts, bisexual, chunky, co-eds, fetish, gay, interactive, POV, lesbian, MILFs, etc.
Wow. Even Muppets.
Muppet on Muppet.
John Palmer. What's your favorite category? What's your favorite category?
Probably MILFs, I would say.
Yeah,
Jamil?
I would say John Palmer's is big-breasted Asians. I don't know. I think that's the way he would go. I'm just saying.
Just my children if they were listening to this show.
With nothing really to go on, just guessing. Just guessing. Yeah. No, you get to choose 3 free adult DVDs. You get to you buy one item, 50% off first.
Right. Okay.
You select one item, you're going to get that 50% off. Then you get the 3 free adult DVDs. They get you an extra gift so sensual we're not allowed to mention what it is. And free shipping. All just for using the offer code JAMIL at adamandeve.com. You can even shop on your mobile phone at adamandeve.com now.
Yeah. Free shipping's nice, especially when it comes to those, real long or oddly shaped packages.
Right.
Usually you have to pay extra for those.
Yeah, when it's like, you get the 3-foot package. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, it's a great deal because you're only buying one thing at 50% off, and then everything else is free.
Yes,
I mean, your costs are quite low, so go check it out, adamandeve.com. Use that off code Jamil, JAMIL.
Or check out their mobile site at...
It's still adamandeve.com. I guess it'll redirect automatically, but it was before m.adameve.com.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So something there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good stuff. All right. So questions from the chat for this.
No Spider Wrangler today. He has meetings or some nonsense. He has to work and produce things for his boss, whatever that means.
But this one is from Eagle Dude, which is a close second, I suppose. How worried should we be with using Brett and Lacto to ferment batches of beer in the same fermenter that we brew normal Saccharomyces beers?
Well, depends on how you clean them. So at Heretic, we've been using the same because we are limited currently on how many fermenters we have. At home, I used separate fermenters.
Mm-hmm. Generally, you ferment in
plastic
at home, right?
Yeah, I was using better bottles towards the end there. Mm-hmm. Before that, I was using glass. But I could just separate them out that way. But at Heretic, we don't have that luxury. So what we do between every batch, anyways, is we heat the tanks up to almost 200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, okay.
So that pretty much
sanitize them.
Sanitize them, yeah. We do our regular cleaning and acid and all that, but
how do you do that with the jacket?
No, we loop hot water through a heat exchanger with steam on the other side, and it heats it up, and we just keep pumping it through, recirculating it through the fermenter until the whole thing gets real hot.
Oh, okay.
It'll shorten the life of the fermenter, but it guarantees that we know everything's perfectly sanitary.
Yeah.
So that should kill everything there. If you have the ability to use heat on, if you have like a stainless steel conical from Blickman Engineering, you could,
scrub it out.
Use that, yeah.
Star sand.
Put some boiling water in there or something. Heat it up, and that could sanitize it as well. Okay. So it just depends on the type of surface. If it's
if you have plastic, then it's best to get separate plastic
because it's generally cheap.
Yeah.
And why risk it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas if you have stainless steel, whether it's conicals or professional size, then you can get aggressive with your sanitizing treatment to ensure that it's not a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Great. This other one from I don't even want to try it. This is some guy, Mitch, I think is his name somewhere. Hey, buddy, I touched on it before, but I'm kind of wondering if there's anything you can do in-house to stop bacteria or infection if it has already been found. Is it a hope and pray situation at that point?
You mean if a beer has already got an infection, you notice it?
Like maybe you see some ropiness or a pellicle forming and you're like, oh, what can I do at this point?
Well, if it's already fermented, then what you can do is cool it down. Like you've got finished beer, you're drinking it, and then you notice some sort of bacterial infection. You can cool it down, keep it, as cold as you can,
right?
Above freezing for that beer. Take the alcohol into account. But you get it below 35. you get it like 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and hold it there. The bacteria really won't do hardly anything. It'll stay pretty stable, as to what it was, and then you can go ahead and drink it, until it's done. But there's no cure for it.
Right.
When something gets ropey and gets sick, if it's supposed to be a sour beer or something like that, eventually it'll
go away.
And get a little better. So,
yeah, I guess that's one point to bring up is when it comes to actually, if you have a pale ale or you have some beer that has gotten in a contamination or in a sour beer type infection in it, then let it, and it's still in the fermenter. Then maybe it's time to let that run its course. It may take 6 months from the time you notice ropiness or pellicle forming for that sour beer to finish and the flavors to mellow and so on. But you may end up with a real nice sour beer out of it.
Cool. All right. Sakai Brew apparently says it's kind of similar to the other question. Will regular sanitation products clean out these infections on glass and plastic fermenters, or are the plastics screwed if by chance you get an infected beer?
No, they should clean it.
Yeah, I mean the only issue and why people get all iffy about it is because some of these are slime forming, and they coat over themselves and protect themselves from cleaning and sanitizing.
Right.
If you're very diligent in your cleaning and you haven't scratched up the surfaces, you should be able to get it clean enough and then sanitize it, and everything should be fine. It's just
the biofilms is what we're talking about.
Day to day, especially commercial, you're looking at thousands of dollars for almost any batch of beer. So you just need to be a little more careful. But on the homebrew scale, I think you're okay. But it should do it. It's just your cleaning becomes much more critical.
Yeah, that's where you may want to switch to a straight caustic, or give it a good PBW soak to help break up that biofilm, and then that way
shake it.
Yeah, shake it, agitate it,
get some mechanical action going.
Right, and then the sanitizer can get to all the bacteria and kill it.
Proper cleaning is important. Proper concentration, so everything as well.
All right, and this is from Username, which is a pretty good username.
Nice.
Are there any beer-contaminating bacteria / wild yeast that can survive in boiling or near boiling water?
Yes, there are. Can't think of what their names are at the moment.
Spore-forming organisms.
Right. That, so especially your spore-forming bacteria.
But even then, I'm not sure how much of an impact they have on flavor. Do they?
Well, yeah, I'd have to look it up. What I do remember about it is that if you have a spore forming bacteria that can't survive the boil, if you didn't pitch yeast to that wort, so if you create the wort and then let it sit for a long time at favorable temperatures, that's when that spore could...
Botulism.
Yeah,
there
botulism. That's a good one.
So, you boil some wort, some botulism spores have gotten in there, you boil it, and then let it sit. Those things weeks. Will survive the boil. They can start growing.
Yeah.
They can kill you.
Right. Whereas if you got a normal boil, normal yeast pitch, normal fermentation happens, conditions in that wort will not be favorable for the spores to transform.
Right. They'll still be there, but they won't
be a problem.
Burst forth and multiply.
Right. And it's the multiplication and the toxins they give off as they multiply that are the problem for everyone.
Yes, I always found multiplication very difficult.
And our last question from Durfbug, who I have to piece the question together, so I apologize for the clumsy, ham-fisted delivery. But basically, he has some oak. He had an oak rod, and he put it in some beer, and he said he used Star Sand on it before tossing it in, but he still got some sort of contamination. What did he say? It got a white layer and turned to vinegar. And so he wants to know the best way to sanitize the rod. So I know, like chips, I've never sanitized any oak I've ever put in my beer, and I've never had this kind of problem. I may have had some issues, but I couldn't detect them. And you can steam them in the microwave or whatever. But what about the 2-foot rod?
Have you sanitized your rod?
Yeah.
Well, and Brettanomyces can survive. Can be as deep as a 1/4 inch in the wood.
Yeah.
And can work its way back out and infect your beer, contaminate your beer. So, just cleaning the surface with Star Sand or something like that is not going to touch that. And the wood is porous, and these organisms can get their way in there, and that can be an issue. If it turned acetic, it could have been Acetobacter, but it also could have still been Brett with just a lot of oxygen available.
Right.
So those are the two possibilities. The way that you kill this stuff off is you use heat, and you can get some boiling water and then stick your rod in there and let it. Then you can shut the boiling water off and just let it soak in there and steep for a time. But that's going to reduce a lot of your tannins and things like that.
Yeah, that's some of the oak character. You could also, I think, put it in the oven, like 250 degrees or 200 degrees.
Right. Oh, there you go.
For an hour or so, and that wouldn't necessarily toast it much.
It'd be like 4 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I mean, you can use chips. And the nice thing about chips, you can put them in like a mason jar, and you can actually pressure cook them and make them sterile. I used to do that. And then, there's no worries whatsoever. It kills spores and everything.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. There's hope for your rod. All righty. That's it for the chat. I think that was another fine show, and thank you for listening live and providing your questions. If you're hanging out live, stay tuned. We got a couple more shows coming up. Palmer's here in the studio, and we're gonna make hay while the sun shines.
There you go. Brew Strong, everybody.
Brew Strong.